On the afternoon of November 8, 2024, a 66-year-old man named Ahmad Alkhalaf drove his silver Ford F-150 to a Valero gas station in the Oak Cliff neighborhood of Dallas, Texas. He wasn't going to meet a stranger for anything unusual. He wasn't doing something risky or illegal. He was simply meeting someone who wanted to buy a phone, a simple, everyday transaction through Facebook Marketplace. Within minutes, gunfire echoed across the lot, and Ahmad lay mortally wounded beside his truck. What began as an ordinary sale ended in tragedy. This is the story of a kind man who believed in trust, of a young woman consumed by recklessness, and of the chilling truth that one innocent click can change everything. Ahmad Alkhalaf was born on March 15, 1958, in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon. He grew up surrounded by mountains and olive trees, in a close-knit family where hard work was not optional, it was survival. As the eldest son, he learned responsibility early, caring for his younger siblings while his father worked long days in construction. Those who knew him in childhood described him as gentle, thoughtful, and curious, the kind of boy who helped neighbors with errands and always shared what little he had. When civil unrest grew in the region, Ahmad longed for stability, for peace, and for opportunity. In 1985, he left Lebanon for the United States, part of a wave of immigrants chasing the American dream. He settled first in Chicago, taking whatever jobs he could find: mechanic, delivery driver, grocery clerk, before eventually moving to Dallas in the late 1990s. He married Lena, the woman he'd loved since his teenage years, and together they built a modest but warm life. They had 2 children, Mariam and Samir, and Ahmad worked tirelessly to give them every chance he never had. He never cared for luxury. What mattered was faith, family, and integrity. Friends remember him as quiet but steady, a man whose handshake meant something. Neighbors would often find him outside on weekends, tinkering with cars or mowing lawns for elderly residents. He was the sort of man who waved to everyone a small gesture that said much about who he was. By 2024, Ahmad was semi-retired, but still active. He had developed a small side hobby, buying and selling used electronics, phones, tablets, and old computers. It wasn't about profit. It was about staying busy. His daughter, Mariam, later said, he loved fixing things. He couldn't sit still. If something was broken, he had to make it right. Ahmad used Facebook Marketplace for these exchanges. It gave him flexibility, a way to meet people and make a few extra dollars. He had done dozens of transactions without trouble. To him, it felt safe, especially when he met buyers in public places during daylight hours. On November 5th, he posted a listing for a brand new iPhone 15, black, 128 gigabytes, asking $850. At 11:20 a.m., a message arrived from a user named Amaya Medrano. The profile showed a young woman in her late teens or early 20s, posing with friends, nothing overtly alarming. The messages were polite at first. "Hi, is it still available?" she wrote. Ahmad responded quickly, "Yes, ma'am, still available." They exchanged a few more lines before agreeing to meet on Friday, November 8th, at the Valero station near South Marsalis Avenue, a busy area he believed would be safe. That buyer was 19-year-old Amaya Medrano. Her life, on the surface, looked unremarkable, but her background told a different story. Raised in and around Dallas, she had struggled with instability for years, run-ins with the law, turbulent relationships, and an arrest in 2023 for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon after stabbing someone during a dispute. She received probation, avoided prison, and resumed her life. Her social media presence mixed selfies with cryptic captions. "You never know who smiles behind your back," one read. Another simply said, "Trust no one." She often flashed cash or electronics in photos. To police later, it seemed like a young woman living fast and without fear of consequence. When Amaya reached out to Ahmad, investigators believed her intentions were Evidence later showed that she had no real interest in buying the phone. She may have planned to rob him, or worse, from the very beginning. But Ahmad, a man of decency and goodwill, saw only a buyer. He told his daughter on the morning of the meeting, "I'm going to sell the phone today. I'll be home by 4. She told him to be careful, and he smiled. "Don't worry, I've done this many times." The afternoon sun sat high as Ahmad left his house. At 2:20 p.m., he wore a tan jacket, blue jeans, and a simple baseball cap. Dashcam footage from a nearby business later showed his truck pulling into the Valero station around 2:45. He parked beside Pump 5, close to the convenience store windows. A few minutes later, a red sedan pulled into Pump 7. The driver was Amaya Medrano. She stepped out, looked around, and walked toward him. The station's surveillance cameras captured their brief exchange. They spoke for less than a minute. Ahmad opened the phone box, showing her the iPhone. She leaned in, nodded, and then stepped back. He turned slightly toward his truck, perhaps to grab paperwork. In that brief moment, she turned away and ran. Instinctively, Ahmad followed, likely thinking she had taken the phone or wanted to negotiate further. Witnesses said they heard him call out, "Wait, come back!" Seconds later, Amaya turned, raised a handgun, and fired. The first shot struck his chest. He staggered. The second shot hit his abdomen. He collapsed beside the truck as she sprinted back to her car. The red sedan sped away, tires screeching, disappearing down Marsalis Avenue. It all unfolded in under 20 seconds. Panicked witnesses dialed 911. A Dallas ISD officer nearby responded within minutes, finding Ahmad unresponsive on the pavement. Paramedics arrived at 3:05 p.m. He was rushed to Parkland Memorial Hospital but pronounced dead at 3:15. He had brought the phone, the box, and $60 in change, all untouched. Nothing was stolen. The senselessness of it stunned everyone. The scene was taped off by 3:20 p.m. Investigators marked 2 9mm shell casings on the ground and photographed every angle. The iPhone box lay open, the device halfway out. Ahmad's wallet remained in his jacket pocket. His own cell phone, still unlocked, displayed his last conversation, the chat with A. Medrano. Detectives knew instantly this wasn't random. Whoever had lured him there had done so through that account. Detective Luis Cabrera, of the Dallas Police Department's homicide unit, later recalled, "We could tell he wasn't robbed. The phone was still there. It looked like she panicked, shot him, and ran." Surveillance footage confirmed what witnesses described. Clear images showed the shooter's facial tattoos, a small star under her eye, dots along her cheek. By nightfall, police had released still images to the public, asking for help identifying the suspect. Meanwhile, at home, Ahmad's family waited for his return. When his phone went silent, his daughter called repeatedly. Then came the call no one ever forgets from the hospital chaplain. Mariam said later, "They told us he didn't make it. My mother screamed. My brother punched the wall. It didn't seem real. He was supposed to be home for dinner." As detectives worked overnight, digital forensics teams subpoenaed Facebook for records of the account that contacted Ahmad. Within hours, they linked A. Medrano to an IP address in Mesquite, Texas, matching Amaya Medrano's home. Her probation officer confirmed she fit the physical description seen in the footage. By November 10th, police had a warrant for her arrest. 2 days later, U.S. Marshals found her hiding at a friend's apartment in Mesquite. She was taken into custody without incident. In her car, investigators discovered a 9mm handgun. Ballistic tests matched it to the shell casings from the gas station scene. The evidence was overwhelming: the gun, the Facebook account, and the surveillance video. Yet Amaya insisted she had acted in self-defense. According to police interviews, she claimed Ahmad had made her feel unsafe and that she shot because she thought he was going to grab her. Investigators found no evidence supporting that claim. Ahmad's fingerprints were nowhere on her or the weapon. and multiple witnesses testified that he was simply chasing her after she fled with his merchandise. He had no weapon, no record of violence, and no history of confrontation. The notion of threat fell apart instantly. What emerged next was even more disturbing. Digital evidence revealed that Amaya's phone had been in contact with another number the night before the shooting. That number belonged to a man later linked to an online fraud ring that used fake marketplace listings to rob or lure sellers. It appeared Amaya may have been part of a broader scheme, though investigators could not prove others were directly involved in Ahmad's death. Still, it raised chilling questions. Was she acting alone, or was he targeted? Prosecutors later said the messages between Amaya and her contact suggested premeditation. She knew exactly what she was doing, one investigator said. They talked about getting something quick and mentioned a phone sale. Then the next day, he's dead. The timeline was damning. It wasn't an impulsive act. It was deliberate. The story made local headlines immediately. Man killed during Facebook marketplace sale. Read 1. Grandfather gunned down in Dallas gas station. For his family, the headlines felt surreal. We saw his name on the screen, Miriam said quietly. It didn't seem like my father. It seemed like a story about someone else. But it was us. The Dallas community responded with outrage and sympathy. Strangers brought flowers to the gas station. Local imams led prayers for Ahmad's soul. Donations poured in for his funeral. For many, his death represented every parent's worst fear, that even ordinary acts of kindness can become fatal in the wrong moment. As detectives continued their work, more of Amaya Medrano's history came into view. Court records showed her violent past, the 2023 stabbing that earned her probation, several theft arrests as a juvenile, and repeated social media posts boasting about getting what's mine. She was well known to police, yet despite that, she had been free. She shouldn't have been out, one officer later told reporters. If probation had been stricter, maybe he'd still be alive. In February 2025, Amaya was indicted on a charge of capital murder. Her bond was set at $1 million. The district attorney announced plans to seek life imprisonment. During pre-trial hearings, her defense continued to claim self-defense, arguing that Ahmad lunged at her and that she feared for her life. Prosecutors countered with video evidence showing her firing without provocation and with forensic analysis confirming Ahmad never made physical contact. The trial began on February 3, 2025, in the 192nd District Court in Dallas County. The courtroom was tense, filled with Ahmad's relatives, friends, and community members. The prosecution methodically laid out the sequence of events from the Facebook messages to the gas station footage. They showed jurors still images of Amaya holding the gun, her tattoos clearly visible. Her car's license plate matched to the one spotted leaving the scene. They called ballistic experts, digital forensic specialists, and eyewitnesses. Each piece of evidence built the same conclusion. This was not self-defense. It was an execution. The defense tried to humanize Amaya, describing a troubled childhood and mental health struggles. A psychologist testified that she suffered from impulsive behavior and poor emotional regulation. But under cross-examination, prosecutors emphasized that she still made deliberate choices to bring a gun, to pull the trigger, and to flee. After 3 weeks of testimony, closing arguments lasted an entire day. Prosecutor Rachel Carter addressed the jury. Ahmad Alkhalaf came to that gas station believing in decency. He came to sell a phone, not to die. He did everything right, met in daylight, in public, with cameras, and still, it wasn't enough. She pulled that trigger, not out of fear, but greed. That is murder. The jury deliberated for 4 days. On February 28, 2025, they returned their verdict, guilty of capital murder. The judge sentenced Amaya Medrano to life in prison without the possibility of parole. She showed little emotion as the verdict was read. Ahmad's daughter wept in the gallery, clutching her mother's hand. After court adjourned, Mariam spoke briefly to reporters. "We didn't want revenge," she said. "We wanted justice. Now we have that, but it doesn't bring him back. My father was a good man. No one should die for a phone." It stacked. In the months after the trial, the Alkhalaf family turned their grief into purpose. They created Click Safe Dallas, a small nonprofit dedicated to teaching residents about safe online transactions. They partnered with the Dallas Police Department to establish designated safe exchange zones, brightly lit, camera-monitored parking areas outside police stations where buyers and sellers could meet. Mariam began speaking at community events, urging caution when using apps like Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, and Craigslist. "We can't undo what happened," she told one audience, "but we can make sure it doesn't happen again." Their advocacy soon gained attention statewide. Other Texas cities, Fort Worth, Houston, San Antonio, adopted similar safe exchange programs. Facebook itself released a statement expressing condolences and reminding users to prioritize safety when meeting buyers or sellers. For Ahmad's family, it was bittersweet progress. "If one person thinks twice before meeting a stranger because they heard my father's story," Mariam said, "then his death won't be in vain." Ahmad was buried in the Islamic cemetery of Dallas under a headstone that reads simply, "Beloved husband, father, and friend, always kind." Each year on November 8th, his family gathers at the site, lighting candles and reciting prayers. They remember his laughter, his patience, the way he'd fix anything broken. They remember the man behind the headline. The case of Ahmad Alkhalaf is a sobering reminder of how fragile safety can be in the digital age. The tools that connect US apps, messages, online marketplaces also open doors for danger. Most exchanges end without harm, but some do not. Behind every profile picture is a stranger, and sometimes that stranger has intentions we cannot see. Ahmad did everything right, and it still cost him his life. For investigators, the lesson is clear. Public awareness saves lives. Since this case, Dallas PD has reported a 30% increase in citizens using safe exchange zones for online transactions. "It's working," said Detective Cabrera. "People are more careful. That's his legacy." As we close this story, we remember not only the crime, but the man. Ahmad Alkhalaf was more than a victim. He was a father, a husband, a neighbor, a friend. He believed that honesty could bridge differences. He trusted the world perhaps too much, and the world failed him. His story is a warning, but also a call to action, to protect ourselves, to look out for others, to remember that behind every click is a human life. If this story moved you, we invite you to share it. Comment below with your thoughts. Have you ever felt uneasy meeting someone from an online marketplace? What safety steps do you take now? Like this video to help others see it, and subscribe to Evidence Uncovered for more true crime documentaries that shed light on the human stories behind the headlines. Because every statistic hides a name, a face, a family, and their story deserves to be told. Rest in peace, Ahmad Alkhalaf. May justice and memory keep you alive.